have to move a little bit more into operations. So I think in the future there's probably not even going to be any point because they're going to jam pack this thing with lots of payload, and they're going to need the full performance of this thing. They will not allow the propellant to warm up and basically become less dense. But for these test flights, even though they might want a bit more performance, they can still probably hold. Again, yesterday it was less than 10 minutes, maybe like 7, 8 minutes or so. But yeah.
There you go. You're seeing the frost line rising on the methane and oxygen tanks now on Starship 39, which is great to see. And yeah, not really seeing any clouds in the sky right now. It's pretty blue, which is going to be great news for our tracking teams, both at the Rocket Ranch Outpost, where we were a few moments ago, also at the Margaritaville Beach Resort, South Padre Isle, Isle or Island? I think it's Island, where Das is watching on from. I've even been there, and I can't even get the name of the island right. South Padre Island, SPI, and we're very grateful to both Margaritaville and Rocket Ranch for allowing us to track this launch from there. That is the view from the hotel. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of haze. Maybe we can wish that away. But at least looking up, there is no cloud to be seen. So fingers crossed when it clears the pad, views and visibility will improve. I am hearing SpaceX has now confirmed that the good old hydraulic pin in the ship quick disconnect arm has been fixed. That issue has been resolved overnight, just like we saw teams working up there overnight on Starbase Live. So that's good news that SpaceX has managed to work through that issue. I think that was probably obvious because if they hadn't, I'm not sure they'd be 27 minutes away from launch right now. But there you go. Good to hear. Official confirmation. The pin has been resolved. Again.
It's calm. You can hear that birds in the background, and I can see all the chat guys get very excited about the birds tweeting. Yes, we have no control over the wildlife. They really are there, and they really are providing that noise. We're not playing some playback.
Also, yeah, I was going to say deep breaths, and it sounds like the wildlife is also, adding to the ambience of, a bit of relaxation. Just, as we ease into what could potentially be a very dramatic flight. So there's a reason why SpaceX says
Sono Nistoro Video, ho 22 anni, il Tinera mi ha permesso di riprendere i miei studi che avevo lasciato da parte per un bel po' di tempo e arrivare a questo traguardo di prendere il diploma finalmente. Ovviamente Itinera Scuola Online mi ha permesso di studiare comunque anche la sera o anche quando potevo. Sono sempre stato impegnato con il lavoro e ho il diploma posso finalmente realizzare il mio sogno, che è quello di intraprendere l'università all'estero e continuare i miei studi.
So it may look similar on the outside, but who knows what's going to happen. It should be exciting, as SpaceX always says, and excited to finally see a launch from this new pad that has been under construction, it feels like, for years.
Yeah, I mean, they started stacking these things in the tower, at least in 2024, 2 years ago. So this flight and this generation of Starship has been a long time coming. Okay, we're now under 25 and a half minutes left to go in the...
No, si è bloccato.
Okay, continuing to count down through 25 minutes now. We'll get there in the end, everybody. Don't worry, we'll get there in the end.
I feel like the cameras are just as excited as we are. That's why they keep blacking out.
Yeah, and a reminder, all these views are ours. So everyone who's been helping with the support, we appreciate it so much. These are all of our views, our cameras that are out there, including one that you saw that close-up view before that's about 1,000 feet away from the rocket, what we're calling our danger trailer over in that super close lot. We've done everything we can to try and protect those cameras, but it should, again, the excitement guaranteed, bring some great views.
Yeah, I feel like chat, you need to start putting a poll out there already. Do we think these cameras are going to survive? I'd love to know what you think about what the conditions going to be from that danger zone.
I mean, Danger Van has some stories to tell. I hope Danger Trailer won't have the same stories to tell. Maybe more water deluge than damage from a plume or exhaust. I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it, but we are getting propellant load confirmation from SpaceX now. They are at 42% and rising on methane on the ship, 50.6% oxygen on the ship, 30.8%, 0.9%. It's rising. Methane on the booster. And a similar load on the oxygen tank as well. So continuing to make great progress on fueling Starship Flight 12 with their brand new super duper expedited loading procedure, which they've been proving a few times at this point. They've done, of course, we had the full tanking yesterday for yesterday's launch attempt. They did a partial wet dress the day before. They've done a full wet dress I think about a week before that. And of course, they've been tanking the individual vehicles through their individual test campaigns as well. The venting is getting so big that it's now starting to appear on our long-range cameras. I mean, you have to put in some effort to get between this camera and Starship, considering that's, 100 meters in the air, but the venting is managing to do it nonetheless. I mean, all credit to them. They're managing, the venting is managing to reach that high. Speaking of venting, Sawyer, we're about to see some chilling of the engines. Why does SpaceX need to chill down the engines? Surely they're going to be really hot because, they're burning and they're really hot. So why do they need to be cold?
Well, the main part of the engine that's going to be hot is the bottom part. The engine itself is going to have the super chill propellants going through it. So if you have super cold propellant and you put it into something that's room temperature, if you put anything that has such an extreme temperature difference together, like something hot that's glass into a microwave and it cracks, or something super cold and then you touch it and it cracks, that's what you don't want to happen with a rocket engine. That's what you don't want to happen with the propellant lines, which they've also done up to this point. So it's basically starting to slowly chill them down so that those super chilled propellants, as they run through it, don't cause any cracks. And it's funny, you were talking about the venting kind of blocking the view. All this time for versions 1 and 2 over at pad 1, it was once it lifted off, we would have the obscured view because of the exhaust. This is the one time where it's the exception, where now we should have the venting covering the rocket up to this point and the exhaust not covering it once we go to launch with that bi-directional flame diverter.
Indeed, that new flame diverter is one of the key visual elements. Alice, that looked incredible for the static fires. It turns out that NASA kind of knew what they were doing when they built the Saturn V launch pads back in the 1960s. This is going to be a really beautiful sight, isn't it?
I'm so excited. I don't think anyone on this stream is not. We've all been waiting for this for so long. It feels like, 7 months since we last seen a spaceship in action. This version 3 is going to be something else to see. What a marvel we're all looking at. I think we're looking at the response now about what they did with the pin. Alex, do you want to give us an update of what kind of information we're getting from the SpaceX team about what they did to fix that pin issue from yesterday?
They tried to solve it, basically trying to adjust the arm where the pin is located in and whatnot. I gotta be honest, I completely missed the very specifics. Just basically trying to adjust how the pin retracts and changing some of the software as well. On how that works so that it doesn't get jammed at the time of retraction. And after that T-minus 42nd point in countdown, ahead of retracting that arm at T0, they do that unlatch, sort of like, if you were to unlock your door, sort of thing, and then you pull the handle and that sort of thing, and try to open, that happens at T0. The unlock happens 4 seconds before that, after that T-minus 42nd point.
And Sawyer, now we're through that kind of T-minus 20-minute mark. Of course, as you said, no T-minus 20-minute vent from Starship like we see from Falcon 9. But from now on, pretty much until 2 minutes to go, we're just going to sit back and not relax because we are full of adrenaline. But it's just propellant load from here on out.
Yeah, pretty much. At this point, it is a large vehicle, as we've talked about, and they have a lot of payload to load, so it is loading it up at this point. But it is much faster than it used to be. I mean, we thought it was fast originally with the earlier versions where it was under an hour to load the vehicle. The fact that now it's under 40 minutes to load the vehicle is still something that boggles my mind, no matter how many times I mention it on stream or mention it at all. So, yeah, at this point, we wait for the prop load. There's not much else we can do, which is the hardest part now is the way.
This camera is in the dunes, as you can tell, super wide lens, and we haven't cropped it on purpose. That is some protection in front of the camera to try and prevent anything going into the camera that shouldn't be there. I think you can fill in the gaps there as to why that camera has that extra shielding. Just like, you know, the ship has thermal shielding, the cameras have physical shielding. Kinetic shielding? I don't know. There we go. We have some experience with that. Moving on, 18 minutes, 15 seconds left to go. Again, the heart rate continues to rise. There's still a lot of birds flying around the area. The wildlife certainly are taking an interest as to what is happening right now. I'm not sure they'll be so interested when they get the engines and take off. They might quickly vacate the premises, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. Fingers crossed they don't get in the way of any of our camera views.
Yeah, reminder of like that view, zoomed in, so it's not like the bird is flying like next to the rocket, like the rocket's going to fly into it. These birds are a lot farther away. The birds in camera are closer than they appear, or farther than they appear.
Thank you, Sawyer. I'm also just
una volta che su Marte estraiamo, coprirlo di
which was what we saw earlier on in the launch stream a couple of hours ago or so. So that was pretty cool. And he says, thanks for the flight, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman. So I guess we have to assume that Jared Isaacman was piloting that jet. So that's a pretty exciting thing to see. Indeed, the administrator and deputy administrator of NASA flying around the Starbase launch site a couple of hours before launch was scheduled to take place. Welcome to the future, everybody. I'm very excited to see this future. I mean, Alice, this is the future we've all been waiting for. And you know, NASA under the this current administration and Jared Isaacman, they want to kick it into another gear, it seems like.
Absolutely, of course, SpaceX and Starship are playing a huge part in the future. So there's a lot invested in this. People want to see succeed for Artemis to move forward. They were kind of more relaxed term, they would go at their own speed, which they want to. It's very much now they know they've got the hopes of the whole space agency to launch. So there's a lot of people there that are
and of course, Sawyer, often we talk about the quote-unquote space race between the United States and China. There's a commercial space race going on because this is one of the two potential lunar landings. The other is from Blue Origin. And, you know, some good old-fashioned billionaire competition between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. That's also going to play... Do you think that's also going to play a big part in today's flight?
Well, I mean, this flight has to be successful for them to be able to proceed with the Human Landing Services program, which is basically NASA contracting out to Blue and to SpaceX to create the lunar lander itself. The crew will launch on Orion as of now on SLS, and then we're done with a lander vehicle. As of right now, the plan was originally that SpaceX Starship would do the first 2 lunar landings, and the third would be done by Blue Origin. But just last year, that was changed. So whoever can get their vehicle done and ready first will be the one that NASA selects to land on the moon with. So getting this done and getting ready for a 2027 Earth test flight with it and being that first one on the surface of the moon is, I think, very much in the forefront of SpaceX.
And I'm also now hearing we have confirmation from SpaceX on that booster profile with the engines. It will be 5 engines through the hot staging sequence and then 33 engines for the boost back burn. And that is going to be absolutely nuts, because the previous generation of booster, it was 3 Raptors staying on for hot staging and 13 Raptors running for the boost back burn. They are tripling the amount of thrust they are running for that boost back burn. If you thought that Starship was going to be cooking it, headed uphill with a max Q 45 seconds after launch, I mean, Godspeed Booster 19, the G-forces that thing's going to be pulling when it's firing with 33 Raptors, with no ship on top, headed back to the launch site. Of course, it's not coming to the launch site this time around, but coming back to the Gulf, just off the coast of the launch site. I mean, that is going to be bonkers.
And with less propellant on board too, it's going to be even lighter.
That's going to be like thrust to weight ratio. I don't know. That's like what you do in KSP when you turn on cheats and you just turn up the maximum thrust of the engine and you just, blast your way into orbit in 5 seconds. I mean, this is just going to be. Okay. I guess we're all about to find out what's going to happen because, well, in 13 minutes' time, fingers crossed, these engines will light and we'll be headed to space with Starship 39 and Booster 19. And then, of course, boost back and landing happening over the following 6 minutes. That's going to be interesting. One way to find out. I suppose you have to stay tuned. Indeed. Has there been anything else catching your ear or catching your eye, Alex?
All around everything looking good, which is clear, weather looks amazing, vehicle and path look healthy, from what I've seen. Things might always pop up as everything looked good in principle, but then as they went through that T-minus 40-second gate, things started to act up on the pad, as we saw, right? That's sometimes a couple of things that are a little bit more out of their control. But other than that, we are counting down. We're still tracking that opening of the window at 5:30 p.m. Central in about 12 minutes from now.
Under 12 minutes now as we continue to progress towards launch. Good fueling on both the ship and booster so far. Of course, that is going to be continuing over the next few minutes here, over the next 9 minutes or so. Of course, they get as close to launch as possible with that propellant load, but they do have to shut off at some point before launch so they can clear out all of the ground equipment and all of the lines running, that are buried within the concrete bunkers to make sure that there's no residual prop left over, which could cause an issue when it comes to launch itself. We are expecting booster propellant load to wrap up 2 minutes and 50 seconds before launch. So that is the next major milestone we will be keeping our eyes and ears peeled for, so we can make sure we call that out when that happens. From, I believe this is from our river site. Of course, we've got plenty of cameras tracked on Starship right now, and if we have any views we can't bring to you on the live stream, we will have the replays afterwards as well. So even if you see Starship launch and everything goes brilliantly, don't go anywhere, because we will have post-flight analysis and those replays to come from every single camera we have deployed at Starbase. And there are many of them. Trust me, there are many deployed all around Starbase. I'm sure DYs will be bringing us some of their trademark slow-mo as well. After the launch. Fingers crossed, everything progresses smoothly over the next 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Again, deep breaths as the heart rate continues to rise as we prepare for Starship's 12th flight. Alex, that venting is just... Again, it catches me off guard every time. The new vents from the tank farm are just humongous.
It's this fan that is enclosed in this box, right? And different vents from different parts of the tank farm come together, and then that shoots off that venting up. And so it then gets distributed by the wind. You can see that, you can tell where the wind is going by the way that this thing is sort of being pushed to.
Tutta quella fantasia, è il lock che sbata.
At least we
È
have all the
gente nervosa perché
videos
si
which
guarda
we
a
can use
volte. Se no,
to track this progress as we come down here to launch in under
è una
9.5
licenza a
minutes.
500. Più che altro, tu, quando è che si fa forza?
I know Das has already done this earlier in the stream, but I'm going to do it again because there are just a few more of you watching now than there were 3 hours ago. So I'm going to ask you, where are you all watching from? It's so amazing to see, you know, all of the countries of the world, it feels like, show up in chat when we have a big event like this, because the world is truly watching. You know, the world is watching South Texas this afternoon / evening / morning, wherever you happen to be watching from on planet Earth. Okay, chat is going quite quickly. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. The moderators might not be too happy with me.
Keep up with them. I've seen a New Mexico in there. That's my home state. And there's a few others in there as well. There's a lot of people staying up late over in Europe, and Norway. I've seen all over the US. It's incredible, isn't it? How many people are tuning up to about 95,000 people our stream getting ready for this launch.
Saw some Space Coast in there too. Yep.
I'm seeing Ireland, Greece, Sydney, Denmark. Okay, I've completely lost it. It's going too fast once again. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As we are approaching 8 minutes to go until launch. Again, the deep breaths, they do help. I am going to convince myself that they help with lowering the heart rate as we progress towards launch.
Remember to breathe.
Yeah. I'll say my heart rate is much higher than it was at this point yesterday. I don't know. Yesterday felt iffy. Today it feels more real.
I agree. There was something yesterday that just when I got to you because we had an hour delay by that point. I think I felt I don't know. There was just something in my mind that felt like it was taking off today. I keep feeling my neck, like my heart pounding through my neck right now. You were asking me yesterday, Ryan, I want those watches to keep an eye on it. I'm like, no, I just need to. I know it's it's close. We're just over 7 minutes away.
La struttura questa qua.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's this is more cool than the anticipation for watching. But there's the reason we get there's so much anticipation. It's because we're so excited to see this thing fly, and finally, it could become real. You know, all of the dreams and hopes of the SpaceX engineers who have been working on this version of Starship for so long. Fingers crossed, those dreams will be delivered upon in 6 minutes and 48 seconds from now. Looks like Jared Isaacman is at SpaceX.
And of course, you got fantastic.
Casey, you got a new job. It's been a slow year for 6 months. You only sent humans around the moon for the first time. Days, Bill and I kind of nerded out a little bit. The last thing I worked on when I was at NASA, so seeing the job is just insane. Like, how's everybody feeling after the success?
I'd say I have the best job in the world. It's an unbelievable team. I mean, you know, that was one of the best for a long time. So I got to show up. Put it in action, but what a great mission. 4 astronauts, you couldn't have had better ambassadors. They really brought us all along for 10 days, and we're getting ready for what comes next. We're stacking our mystery. We got a lot of hardware in the
what's coming up next, and ultimately, like, based on the moon, that's the big focus. Like, what's kind of the
for che busta? Non tanti volte con strumenti. Yeah, cosa viene? No.
Sì, ce l'avevi? Sì, vedi, mi sta chiudendo lei. Lo so, fa 5 minuti e lanciano.
Buona, vieni a vedere l'arco.
Ok, ma non mi interessa.
Ma macchina con la mezz'altra, donna, vieni giù, dai.
Macchina davanti. ho capito. Solo che mancano proprio
SpaceX
i
custom built to try to make life multiplanetary. We're super honored, excited to be part of
Spiegaci un
this
po'
entire Artemis
quanti
program.
motori ci sono.
Really excited to see
50
Starship, sending people to all these different
Quello che si
pieces
chiama
working together.
alla
Really excited.
alla traditore.
che si chiamano
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. It's great to see everybody. Again, I know a lot of hard work goes into a like this, so we're all rooting for you, and we're looking forward to
33 motori.
here in Earth.
All right, man. Cool. I'll let you jump back in there. Got about 4 minutes to go. Just toss it back down to Kate and Jake.
4 minuti.
I'm not Kate, nor am I Jake, but we will continue tracking as we head towards launch. Alex, we have about 4.25 minutes from T0. What are some of the things we need to keep an eye out for as we progress to the very pointy end of the countdown?
Basically just about a minute or so until the booster payload is complete, and a minute later will be ship payload complete. Very similar as we said before to the Falcon 9 payload sequence, where it's like first the booster, the second stage we call it ship because it's a bit more fancy and less like the Falcon 9 second stage, but it's still a second stage after all.
Ciascun motore ha circa 250-280
40 seconds actually for the booster propellant load part of the sequence.
Scatta come me la veloce.
40 seconds after that. Everything's still looking good. So hopefully we go through all that in this 40-second point.
Indeed. Alice, do you have any final kind of thoughts on what we fingers crossed see in 3 minutes from now?
Light this candle. I feel like this is going to happen. I don't know about today, but today feels definitely far
Non lo perdono
for it. I
più.
feel like this is going to be a distant way. They're going to do it, and things are going to go to plan. I've got a very positive feeling about this.
Same question to you, Sarah, what's going through your mind right now?
They're going to do it. It's SpaceX. They're actually going to do it this time. We'll see if they hold at T-minus 40 seconds again. They have the option to, as a reminder. They don't have to, but they can if they choose to, and they can hold for about 10 minutes. Let's hope we don't need that. Let's hope we just get this thing right off the pad and have a successful flight.
Basically 97% if you round all of the tanks fuel on both booster and ship right now. Almost full on ship, almost full on booster. That is great news indeed. I have to say, I hope SpaceX will be go for launch. I know everybody here is go for launch. Chat, are you go for launch? We need to know if you guys are go for launch, because if chat isn't go for launch, then I don't know, maybe someone needs to phone up SpaceX and let them know that chat needs a minute to get ready. Okay, no, chat's ready. Chat's very ready. Chat's yes, lots of goes in chat right now. Everybody is very, very excited to see this thing fly. And yeah, we are excited with you. We are 1 minute and 40 seconds away from Starship Flight 12.
Ship propellant load complete. Seems like the purchase on the launch points are on the way. We're currently doing gimbal checks on the booster engines. There we can see,
And we can see that.
That's the scary.
There
The inner 13 steering there.
Those are those gimbling raptors. Of course, the outer engines do not swivel, only the inner ones do, because they have, as you can see there, very helpful from this launch mode camera, they have that extra clearance there as we approach 60 seconds until launch. As a reminder, SpaceX has a gate at 40 seconds. If they need to hold, they can. But fingers crossed, they have resolved the problems and they are able to push straight through that gate, which will be coming up in a few seconds' time. Of course, if they do have to hold, there'll be a little bit of a delay before we hear that, but fingers crossed, everything is good to go for launch in 45 seconds from now. We're continuing to push through, and we have a hold.
once again waiting for the pushbacks. So it might be really quick.
No.
Just like yesterday, remember? I heard the vent and
There we go. Clock is running for launch. Stand by for the detonation suppression system. That's what we want to hear. SpaceX are go for launch. We're going to stand by for the deluge. That'll be a really obvious thing. And then, of course, that ignition and top deck going off. Starship V3 might be about to fly. There's the rear vent. There comes the deluge. There's the top deck. We should be seeing ignition.
Allora non c'è.
There's ignition.
Non c'è la carta alla rovescia.
And I believe we have liftoff of Starship version 3.
Non è bolla. Non è che ci ha fatto il tasto. Hanno fermato. Fa vedere i motori. Dillo che dice no, ma hanno fatto strano che non fa vedere la telecamera. Un po' strano, sì, fanno tutte le cose spettacolari.
Starship version 3 is airborne. We are headed to space under the power of 33 Raptor 3 engines. We are pushing through max Q. Oh my goodness. This is the period of maximum force on the vehicle when the thrust meets the thicker parts of the atmosphere. But there we go. We're pushing through, and it looks like we're getting a little bit of a vapor cone even forming there as the trail falls away from Starship. This is a spectacular ascent of Starship version 3. That looks like a flawless liftoff, passing the moon in the background.
that was so cool.
We will be going there eventually with Starship, but for now it's a suborbital test flight. The future destination in the background. For now, the destination is the Indian Ocean, and Starship continues to progress downrange. We are passing through 23 kilometers in altitude, and we have healthy Raptor 3 engines on booster 19. We're a few seconds away from main engine cutoff.
One engine off. The other range.
Okay, we've lost one Raptor 3.
32 or 33.
Yep, looks like now they're rolling for preparation for hot staging.
That's still the vast majority of engines. We'll have to see how many of those can relight for the boost back burn of booster 19. But for now, ship 39 and booster 19 doing a spectacular job at standby for stage separation. There is ship engine ignition, and we have stage separation. What a quick flip! The booster is already facing the opposite direction. That was an expedited flip and a half. Oh, maybe the booster is losing a little bit of control, or can it correct? Looks like a little bit maybe of an over-energetic spin from the booster. Looks like it can correct. It looks like it has the authority to correct. Seeing a little bit of a flash from the aft. 5 engines.
All 6 engines on the ship, though.
Good news from the ship, but that looks like a little bit of a wonky from the booster. Okay, again, today is a test flight.
One Raptor vacuum is off. On ship.
We lost a Raptor vacuum. Okay, we are currently running on 2 vacuum Raptors and those 3 sea level Raptors. And you can see there, I believe, on the left-hand side, that is the booster losing control. And you can see there from the ground, this is the Super Heavy booster 19 with an aborted boost back burn that will fall down. I think that's the ship in the background. You can see the booster falling back down to the Gulf below, and the ship is burning in the background on 5 Raptor engines, 2 vacuums, 3 sea levels. One of the vacuums has shut down early, but the other 5, Alex, they seem to be continue firing. Do you think they could get on their trajectory with a subset of engines?
They mentioned that they have engine out capability, so the ship will just be a little bit longer, basically, to compensate. Yeah, one of the Raptor vacuum engines went out. It has the sea level still rolling, so those can compensate both on the gimbaling for attitude control, and also the fact that they can run for longer with those 3 engines plus the other 2 Raptor vacuum engines. Still accelerating, speed still going up on the ship. The booster is stumbling a little bit as it comes back through.
We are watching the booster from the offboard tracking views. We are watching it from the ground. So a little bit of a wonky boost back burn, an aborted boost back burn from booster 19, and it is now tumbling and falling back down towards the Gulf. Again, we were not expecting to recover this booster at all on this flight. SpaceX were hoping for a good boost back and a splashdown in the Gulf. Looks like it's going to be a bit more of an energetic splashdown than they perhaps were initially expecting, but that was a very, very quick flip from the booster. I mean, that was absolutely bonkers to see live on screen in front of us. In the meantime, Ship 39 continuing to burn towards space. It has lost a Raptor vacuum engine, but as Alex said, they have Raptor out capabilities. They are continuing to burn. The other 5 Raptors seem to be continuing as normal, and the ship is continuing to pick up speed as we push towards 9,000 kilometers per hour. So fingers crossed, Ship 39 can make it even on a reduced subset of engines, because of course they only need the 3 sea levels when it comes to do their Raptor relight demonstration, which they could cancel if they need to, and their splashdown burn for landing in the Indian Ocean. So stay fingers crossed for the ship. And we can see there now, Alex, the booster picking up speed.
Entry. Wow.
Yeah, this is toasty.
Yeah,
This is
it's picking up a bit. It looks like too. We'll see if they end up actually trying for the landing for the booster there.
I think we might be going a little bit too quickly at this point. We are now going through 7 kilometers. It's literally horizontal. We are going to be on board with the booster until the very end, I think, as we pass through the clouds on board with booster 19. Look at they've got an ignition. They're going for a landing burn.
Landing burn start.
It was an aborted boost back burn, but they're going for a landing burn. The booster has ignited. Frozen cameras.
There we go.
Looks like an impact in the ocean.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we go back to space, back on board Ship 39, passing through 12,000 kilometers per hour in speed through 6.5 minutes into flight, and 5 Raptors continuing to burn. We have lost one of those Raptor vacuums, but the other 5 engines continue to burn. So fingers crossed, should this continue in this configuration, Ship, with its authority of the 3 gimbaling Raptor engines, should be able to make it onto that trajectory. And that was a very spicy booster flight indeed. Okay. We're getting the gadgets now to show us the exact orientation of the ship. It looks stable, Alex. It looks stable.
It does. It lost that RVAC engine, but it has got engine out capability. So the rest of the engines that are remaining in this just burns are a little longer. I would expect the other 2 RVAC engines to shut down as planned closer to that final shutdown. If you remember, the shut down the engines.
Vedete questi cornetti qua? 1, 2 e ce n'è 2 di là.
On board in the engine bay coming up, there it is. Wow, something's glowing.
Quando le attaccheranno 2 insieme.
By the way,
I'm not sure.
The timeline you see on the bottom, obviously it's a little off because it's a booster leader, so it may be still burning when the bottom thing says Seco.
Exactly. Don't be surprised if those are a little off. But as you can see there, those are 3 sea-level Raptor plumes and are glowing in the aft bay of Ship 39 indeed. But at least the engine is still there. It doesn't look like the engine exploded or caused any debris. It's still there, intact. Maybe just a premature shutdown. So maybe a sensor or something. We'll have to wait and see what SpaceX says when they do their data reviews. But for now, Ship 39 continuing to burn. Again, don't be surprised when we push through this Seco mark. Initially, this was expected with 6 engines. We have lost one of those engines with only 5 burning right now.
Right now, I mean, look at that camera angle. Absolutely stunning.
The sunset views are beautiful. I love these evening launches. And it looks like the Raptors do continue. They're continuing to burn. I can see the plume there. They're continuing to burn. Extended burn from Ship 39 as it has that engine out capability.
It's doing the little dog leg. Remember that we talked about this?
Yes.
You can see it on the bottom right. on the
It's
attitude
flying this
control.
new trajectory between Mexico and Cuba, and to do that, it has this little bit of a dogleg to get around.
Faranno l'ascensione nel vuoto, quindi quelli spenti.
The 6000, there we go. Our engines are off, and
We have Seco, proper Seco, of 5 Raptor engines. Alex, let me know if you hear nominal insertion
I will.
from SpaceX.
Insertion, but we have shut down again. We did run longer as we were engine out. We were fine with those 6 Raptors.
The voice of Dan Hewitt, SpaceX Communications.
There we go. Flight termination system is off, so it's now disabled.
SpaceXers are very happy. We do have a Starship in space, but are we on the nominal trajectory? That is the key.
Now let's see if it holds attitude.
So the flap's moving.
È bello e tutta pensare
The flaps are moving. There we go.
media della gente.
As you can see, the
Cioè,
team
veramente
is
giù dei
incredibly
flap.
excited to see Starship.
Invece
in space. We are awaiting the call out of
sa
insertion. So we're going to stand by for that. We can see the flaps moving here, actuating. But the cheers here in the lobby are certainly almost as loud as liftoff was.
Just saying to the Nancy's in the chat. This is impressive. This is impressive.
Considering this is the first ever flight of this version of Starship, this has gotten so much further than the first flight of V2 did and the first flight of V1. So this is progress, and this is what we want to see. Not 100% perfect, but it's great progress nonetheless. And we will still wait for that confirmation from SpaceX there in that nominal trajectory headed towards the Indian Ocean. Usually would have heard that by now, so we'll stand by to see if we get that call or if they're in a slightly off nominal trajectory.
I'm interested on that vent there. I wonder if that's a proper thruster that they're firing of depressing the payload bay. But I was going to say,
Per l'ISS, che è considerata orbita bassa, è 400.
Mi sa che non sa
like different in my ear right now. I was going to mention, I was surprised by the booster. It lit all 33 engines at once. It did the liftoff. It only lost 1 engine on the way up, which is already way more than Flight 1 in that sense, right? So, yeah.
And it used to be that they had 3 engine out at least capability on version 1. They powered the Raptor V3s. I wouldn't be surprised if they could have more engines out if needed and still on the booster portion.
People calling out flat right there. You're right.
Also, it looks like the ship is kind of rotating up right now. Like its orientation to where it is in relation to the Earth looks a little bit different. Again, that could be that either venting or thruster that you were talking about there, Alex.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. Is that what we were expecting for it to be tipped up that much?
It might be the sort of reorientation for the separation of the satellites. They are basically probably orienting the ship for that. We saw this on the previous flights where they had their on flights 10 and 11 where they deployed those simulators, and so we are now seeing them getting prepared for that. Of course, one of the things is that everything needs to be good for that separation, for that deployment, and so we'll stand by and see if that happens. We saw that, for example, on flight 9, they reached space, the coast phase and everything, but the ship was not ready for that kind of thing, so they aborted that deployment sequence. So we'll see what happens.
So, I mean, look at this. This is amazing. By the way, we have breaking news. With these ships successfully in space, we have a new design here. This is the Flight 12 architecture. So everything that we've seen new with this flight so far on a tumbler. So that way you can keep your drinks warm and keep your thermal protection system warm too. This is a brand new design by Jacques, the same person that designed our patch there. Beautiful design. So yeah, you see you've got the new pad, you've got the new boosters, you've got the upgraded Raptor 3s, all of that in that design. And again, it'll keep your drinks either super cold or super warm. I use a very similar one that we have from the shop all the time when I'm out in the field on launches. So if you want to cheers and toast to a not so toasty right now ship, you can check that out at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Also available, you can see there in the shirt with everything new, with the booster upgrades, Pad 0, and those upgraded engines. This is so cool.
It is very cool. I really like that. I'm going to have to get one of those for my collection. We are coming up to that point now where we're looking to possibly see the payload deployment. We're expecting 20 Starlink simulators to be released on this flight, coming up to around that 17-minute mark as we were expecting it to possibly start. It may be a little bit delayed, given that they've had to go a little bit longer with the burn. Are we expecting that to possibly shift things around a little bit, do you think, Alex?
We'll see. It seems like they might be reorienting. We see there on the attitude. Like, yes, the ship is moving around, but it's not the tumbling that we saw on ship 35, for example, back on flight 9. So let's see what happens.
The Terminator
update from Dan here from SpaceX.
Well, I do want to point out that I'm seeing in the back channel, we had questions earlier, will the Gateway to Mars sign survive? The Gateway to Mars sign now says Gatway. It was indeed missing some letters.
I called it yesterday. I said it wasn't going to fully survive.
I guess half the letters survived on that at least, so there's that. But most importantly is the ship currently surviving, as you see there on the screen.
So one of the thrusters. See there, the blue thing coming up from the side. That's actually a thruster, I think.
All that.
Yeah, those two little holes on the left.
Yeah. And it started again.
So to explain a little bit further, the reason why they did not call nominal orbital insertion is because of that extended burn upgrade. They did their own simulations and things like that. It's a good orbit. It's a good that's why they did not call it. It's good enough. They're going to be seeing, they're probably seeing the light test that they were planning for this based on the engine performance numbers. So that is probably going to happen there. I'm not sure if we're going to be eventually going into that payload deploy, but we'll see if that happens as well. And I guess we have a little surprise on our coverage.
We've got a very special guest joining us right now. Big welcome to you, Robin. Thank you so much for coming up and talking to us. I'm particularly very excited to talk to you. Would you like to first introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Robin Ringett, and I am the president of Astroforce. I have been in large liquid rocket engines and aerospace in general for more than 3 decades now. Originally at Rocketdyne and then at SpaceX during the early years, and subsequently Virgin Orbit, and now at Astroforce.
I'm going to ask you, somebody who's been involved since Falcon 1 engine, what emotions do you feel when you're launched like this today?
Oh, it's so exciting. My heart gets pumping every time I see a rocket launch, and Starship is obviously the biggest
La gestisci da là. Garanzie e sconti. Troppo semplice per essere vero. Proprio come questo. Ma se hai bisogno di noi, ci siamo sempre. Ormai sono stati sicuri di essere
anything that's come before it. But beyond just heavy lift capability, its reusability also brings a level of affordability and continuing to drive down the cost of getting not only to low Earth orbit, but now, as we heard earlier today, alluded to getting to the moon and beyond to Mars. So it's actually really an exciting time.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, Astra Forge are looking to perhaps utilise resources in space. Other industries, do you think a vehicle like spaceships going to open up to other commercial industries?
You know, when we
May
first
I interject for a second here? It seems like we are about to see the payload deployment happen right there.
Yes. Thank you for keeping us honest.
Probably
Alex.
very important for you guys at Astra Forge to go through this.
And a reminder, we are expecting to see about 20 simulated Starlink simulators that are going to possibly deploy today. 2 of them being those Dodger dogs, which we've been laughing about over the last couple of days, named after those Dodger hot dogs that are a little bit longer.
This is a view from the flaps of it.
And out they go.
No,
We can see all of this happening as we see this massive rocket just deploying these satellites. You guys have anything in mind to deploy something from the business concern?
I mean, obviously, as part of this this entire mission, being able to get to see these live images and tremendously high quality. I mean, this is part of what low-cost access to space has done for us. It allows people to innovate. It allows companies to get smarter and get more shots on goals, to try different technologies and different approaches. Obviously, this all comes through Starlink, which SpaceX put up. Right? I mean, they're their own biggest customer when it comes to this. And then in the not too distant future, Starship is going to be able to launch an entire constellation of Starlink satellites in the just mind-boggling to even think about.
Absolutely. We started to see this deployment, the kind of industries that we think this is going to open us up to. Now, obviously, we'd love to hear a little more about what you guys are doing at Astra Forge, and this is going to hopefully
Yeah, so obviously my focus these days is on mining resources in space for use here on Earth. That's what Astra Forge is about. We're going to asteroids to mine them, specifically platinum group metals. We've already been to deep space once, and we're going to be going again late this year on Machines launch. Ride share for that. Beyond just Astra Forge, though, although that's what gets me excited, the reality is all kinds of industries on Earth are impacted by new technology and access to communication. The images that we see coming down from space, the ability to have high bandwidth data transmitted from anywhere in the world, opening up access to the entire human knowledge, database of human knowledge to everyone on planet Earth. It's just absolutely amazing. We're starting to get into, there's been a lot of talk about data centers in space, trying to reduce the impact of these amazing compute capacities that we have today and that continue to grow, removing the environmental impact of that and generating the energy for that.
One of the things that I was wondering, there was a recent thing from SpaceX that sort of caught my eye that might go right along with what you guys are doing, because they're also talking about space and that sort of thing. I guess you guys now have a little bit of competition now with SpaceX, right?
Yeah, so I was actually completely enthusiastic to see that in their recent filing. They did mention that part of their business plan is to use in-space resources asteroids, it's actually much easier to get to asteroids and bring material back to Earth from asteroids than it is to go to the moon and bring it back. Although the moon has 1/6 gravity, and that's great for a lot of different applications and research, and a great stepping stone for humanity. In terms of bringing material back to Earth, we actually know what's on the moon. And we have a lot of it here on Earth. There's not with the exception of helium-3, there isn't a lot on the moon that is bring back to Earth. We're using those resources in situ there to make our own moon bases and other applications in space and on the moon. Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. But I was very enthusiastic and excited to see that SpaceX sees the light. Being able to go after resources beyond Earth. And as exciting as it is to see rocket launches, I think we all can appreciate that it's much easier to move material around in space than it is to pick it up and launch it off the ground. Even tremendously large Starship is, build our large space structures and applications there in space eventually.
I was going to say, we're coming up to those Dodger dogs, those elongated, those larger payloads. We're very excited to be able to see that. Alex, can you explain to the people watching what it is that we're about to see when we approach that?
Yeah, they have deployed well over half of those, and now we are getting close to the last. I think there's 4 pairs left. The final pair of satellites are those Dodger dogs. The V2 mini satellites, sort of modified to fit in this best sensor profile sort of thing, and those are the ones that have the cameras on them. And they're going to be using those to be able to check on the heat shield and trying to develop eventually sort of methods to be able to know how that heat shield is before they return the ship. Because in the future, we're going to retune our orbit, and before returning it over Mexico and Southern California and all those areas to Starbase, you kind of want to make sure that ship is ready to go through that re-entry. You want to make sure that the heat shield is in good condition to do that. And so it's a really nice thing to develop those methods, because it's really useful in the future. Shuttle did that. Starship vehicles will be able to use those kinds of methods.
Yeah, a bit of a signal issue. I'm very quickly.
Well, they were deploying real Starlinks and not the Starlink dummies that they could use, right?
Well, there is apparently cameras on board those 2 Dodger dogs, so I hope we can see some images from those as well, if they are able to do that. Robin, we were talking about a competitive, should we call it, competition, but in a competitive way, in a good way. It means that it's validating what you guys are going to be looking to do. How close are we to seeing us using space resources right now?
Well, I can tell you that Astroforge is planning to bring material back to Earth, our first pieces of near-Earth asteroid before the end of this decade. So we've got it takes us about 9 months to get out to the near-Earth object, and then we spend about 3 months mining it, and then about a year to get back. So once we launch, it's about a 2-year cycle before we get material back, and we plan to return material as soon as our Space 3 mission, which is the one after this one.
Dall'originale gusto nasce il coro Baci Gelato.
And tongue-in-cheek cheekiness of the company. I remember when we launched an entire log of cheese.
The Monty Python spectacular.
Wheel of cheese.
This is the pain dispenser. I mean, you have to be of a certain age to realise what that is referencing. I do know that. It's fun. You've got to have some fun with this. They are doing exciting things. Why not be fun as well? Oh, the chat's asking what kind of cheese was it?
I think it was it a Stilton or a Curl? Yeah, I don't remember. Last when it came back, it got sealed away in the case. It was was pretty stinky.
Here we go.
There we go. One of them out. And now
Doesn't seem like
let's
we're
see
getting
that
live
second
views
one.
though.
Yeah, they said that they might be a bit delayed with the turnaround in those videos. They don't expect live views yet. Haha. Hang on.
Uh-oh.
And there goes
Oh,
the
look at
lights.
the light. Look at that. As it travels halfway around the world from where it took off.
Sometimes our science reality feels like science.
They're a little bit excited over in Hawthorne.
Deve sparare gli
That's where we're
due.
hearing all the cheers
Sono quelli con
coming
le
from.
telecamere.
We're currently at 29 minutes almost into this flight.
Is that the door closing yet? Or when does that close, Alex? It looks like it is.
Yeah, it's closing. They were just talking about that. The bay door is closing.
Yeah, you were able to see that light kind of dissipating as it went into place.
A little bit excited there, as I keep saying. As they should be. This is a huge achievement. I know you've been part of these sort of things, Robin, and it's such passion that you put into these projects. What does it feel like when you see an outcome like this? It might not necessarily go perfect to plan, but this is looking pretty good for them.
A plan lasts about as until you get punched in the mouth. Right? That's how long a plan lasts. Yes, these are test flights. Yes, SpaceX has had many test flights of the Starship. If you look at any new launch vehicle, any size and capacity, there's actually usually about 3 out of the first 5 fail entirely. And when you look at the scale and all of the new industrial infrastructure level capability that SpaceX has had to build from the ground up in kind of an amazing amount of time. Starbase is it's an amazing sight to behold in of itself beyond just Starship. The fact that SpaceX has been able to do that as a private organization this entire time, certainly with lots of programs from the government and other private companies to help fund the launches and money coming in from Starlink. But the tremendous progress that has been made, and when you start talking about, I mean, this is a reusable second stage. So not only the largest liquid rocket engine ever developed by humankind, but a reusable first stage and a reusable second stage with new thermal protection, modern advances, power, and precision navigation and control. I mean, this is our science future that this is not a Heinlein book, an Arthur C. Clarke book. I mean, this is what they had dreamed of, and what most of us have dreamed of for a long time. Really taking humanity to the stars.
You can see they're rotating the ship in the graphic at the bottom, right? In this light, the satellites, they're shining these bright lights on the Starship, because obviously right now they're in nighttime, orbital nighttime. There shouldn't be any sun out there. This is just like the satellites themselves, right?
So was that dot we saw by the flag, was that the moon, or was that one of the lights from the satellites?
I think it was one of the satellites, one of the lights from that, and it's rotating the ship, so they're able to image the whole of the heat shield at the bottom. Wow, that's bonkers. I wonder how powerful this light is.
I mean, that was part of one of their purposes, wasn't it, to be able to send out these texture, these to make sure that they could get the images they want of the heat shield, which is exciting to see that this is going to plan.
If you think back to Columbia, it had damage to the leading edge wing, and we didn't even really know it, or at least we didn't know the extent of it before those astronauts re-entered the Earth. So your heat shield is literally millimeters or a very small number of inches between thousands of degrees of hot gas plasma directly against the spaceship and what amounts to aluminum underneath. So you really have to understand what the condition of those heat shields are.
Norimberga, Strophilus,
Ci siamo.
Finti. Mi fai più Starlink, quindi?
L'offerta è accettata.
La pubblicità?
Il contratto è firmato. E è una PEC.
È una PEC.
Solo la PEC dà valore alle parole. Le altre sono semplici email.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually develop our own imagers specifically to be able to acquire near Earth objects. We're going after really small objects that are really dim, and so it requires very sensitive optics, special algorithms that we develop. All of that in-house to be able to find the asteroid. Yeah, and as you approach, well, we're gonna use the sun side. We're gonna use the big flashlight. Those imagers help us not only find the asteroid, but then autonomously navigate towards the asteroid, eventually rendezvousing with it. And then we have a set of other cameras on board that help us, that are set far apart from each other, that allow us to get some binocular visions and depth perception, so that we can see how far away the asteroid is.
Sort of like our eyes.
Exactly. If you've seen a lot of images of the moon or other asteroids, it's actually very difficult to know how large the sizes of the features that you're seeing are, because there's no point in reference. So a lot of the engineering camera images you actually have crosshairs and things overlaid, and that's so that the engineers can actually figure out how big is that? Is that a pebble? Is that a boulder? What am I looking at? So having those kinds of data is critical.
Absolutely. We're coming up to just over 35 minutes into this flight now. And talking about what am I looking at? What are we looking at, Sawyer? We're seeing it looking like it's rotating around still.
Yeah, I was just mentioning the back channels. Feels a lot like during the space shuttle program, they would do something called the rendezvous pitch maneuver after Columbia that you're talking about there, where they would flip the shuttle basically a full 360 so that people in the ISS could take photos of the heat shield to see how it did. This feels very reminiscent of that, except instead of the ISS taking the pictures, it's those two Dr. Dog elongated Starlinks, which again, we talked about the other ones being those Starlink simulators. These are actual Starlink V2 minis that have been extended out for this sole purpose here. So it's very cool to see it, and then rotating around, getting those images, and then hopefully shortly we'll see that get into its re-entry orientation too.
I've got to ask, Ben, what does this compare to being like when the early stages of SpaceX when you were working on the
You know, it's actually hard to capture in words what it felt like working at SpaceX in the early days. There's a lot of stories. There's literally been books written, there's an amazing part of being a startup that gets kind of lost, which is you never know if the doors were going to be locked on any given Monday. Success was not a guarantee, and staying in business was not a guarantee. And so when we first launched Falcon 1, we also did not expect complete success. And in fact, it only stayed in the air about 29 seconds. But that willingness to push the button and see how it goes and drive the cost down and get us into production, that spirit, I can tell you, is still alive at Starbase today. When I visited there, they are making a production machine, and that is how they are able to produce all of these Raptor engines in Hawthorne and all of the SpaceX, Starship and booster pieces at scale. Absolutely amazing.
I think this is the video that they promised would be delayed.
This is from the Dr. Dog.
Yeah, look at that.
There's one of the docking ports for when they do refueling.
Wow.
It doesn't feel real, does it? It feels like a graphic.
This was mere moments ago.
Yeah, this is not live. This is still with a few minutes delay. There we go.
Ci sono le luci anche.
Luci interne, sì.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Guardate che
sta chiudendo la porta.
Well, that answers our earlier question, isn't it? It was definitely the light from that satellite that we were seeing as it was rotating around.
You can still see some of the frost on the bottom near the engine section.
Quello non ve lo facciamo vedere.
Yeah, they said that they did not expect to have a live view, that they basically were trying to turn around that video as quickly as possible. They were going to be downlinking it and trying to turn it around as quickly as possible. And hey, it's been like 10 minutes since that deployment. I think that's a good turnaround. Definitely way better than certain other turnarounds that we do here at NSF. But yeah, it seems like we have passed the time that we had seen that rapid relight, if it had actually been approved for this part of the plan, because as we were talking about before, they had that engine out during ascent. They had a bit of a less nominal orbit insertion in that case. Still good to go for that post phase and that deployment sequence that we just saw. Excuse me, that we just saw in about 9, maybe closer to 8 minutes or so, I guess. Doing a bit of mental math here, we should be getting close to that entry interface portion of this flight, and man, we're about to see all of those sparks fly.
Absolutely. Robin, thank you so much for joining us and giving us that great insight into what it was like at SpaceX and what you're doing now at Astroforge. We're very excited to see you guys launch, and we'll hopefully check in with you again very soon. We're going to get back to what we're getting into now, because we are coming up to nearly 40 minutes into this flight, which is only an hour and 5 minutes long. So it's moving quickly. We're progressing in the right direction, aren't we, Alex?
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, it looks like the flaps are now
Lui il satellite rilasciato.
You can kind of see those two satellites still out there, those two bright lights. And I think
quelle luci che
either those other lights are cities, or they might be the other satellites. I sort of side of the
City lights, for sure. And those puffs, by the way, that kind of color change that looks like it's going through, that's still those RCS thrusters that we were seeing, right?
Yeah.
RCS, by the way, reaction control system. That's part of the in-space maneuvering engines, as opposed to the main Raptors that we're used to seeing for the actual launch and slowdown.
You've seen that bottom right image, by the way, that we are over South Africa at the moment, which is exactly where they're expecting to be at around this point. So they are city lights that you are just about making out in the background.
And a reminder, the timing can change a bit of when things happen now for this part, given that they were into that slightly different trajectory they originally planned, although a safe one, and also that the burn went was about 1.5 to 2 minutes longer than originally planned to make up for that engine that went out.
Yeah, that is completely planned. Again, they run simulations. What happens if an engine goes out at this point? And Sawyer, because you're a shuttle expert, I guess, that was exactly what the shuttle also was designed for. That in different times during ascent, if the shuttle lost an engine, it could still go on with 2 engines. And in fact, one of them, STS-51F. They had an engine out about 5 minutes into ascent.
Yeah, it was, you're right, STS-51F, where they did it's called an abort to orbit. So basically, the engines were starting to go out. Regardless, to be safer, they went into a slightly lower than originally planned orbit, rather than going all the way up to their intended one. But yeah.
Come decidere tra proteggere una donna dalla violenza e un bambino dallo sfruttamento? Nessun diritto è più importante di un altro. Con Action Inter devi scegliere. Basta solo
No, ma veramente c'è un ragazzo per la China, poverina, ma è una gioia, è sempre sul terrazzo.
SLS, you might hear, if you go back to the Artemis 2 ascent callouts, there's one of these callouts very early on, about 1 minute into flight, where it's, I think, RTM high or something like that. It's about the RS-25 engines. Like if one engine were to shut down, they would at least make it into orbit even that early on, because SLS has 4 of those engines, and it's meant to basically send Orion all the way to the moon. So just to go into orbit takes a lot less effort, and so SLS is way overbuilt for just getting into orbit. And so they do that call out marking when they pass that point in flight, where if they were to lose one of those RS-25 engines, then they will still be good to go. Of course, SLS it spent way more time to develop that. It's meant to sort of, as soon as you fly it, it really needs to work, sort of thing. Whereas Starship's development is a little bit more fluffy, if you will, in the details. But I will say overall, compared to what I expected for this flight, some other flights where we started losing engines, things really went downhill very fast. This time around, yes, that Argyle engine went out, but then the other 5 engines compensated, went for longer, and they were able to go into this cruise chase. They were able to deploy those satellites, which is very important for them, being able to do that inspection of the thermal protection system. And we'll see now that re-entry thanks to this as well. Now let's hope that the ship holds up through that re-entry, and then, of course, after about 15 minutes of re-entry, we'll have ship relining the engines. I did say that despite having canceling that relight test in space, they still will continue and will try to do that landing burn of the ship. So that should still be good to go. We're starting to see some things already on board as Starship gets closer and closer to the upper atmosphere.
By the way, reminder, Alex, I just want to ask really quick, how many engines do they use for that flip and burn maneuver, and would it be an issue that they had one of them that went out on the way uphill?
No. So one of them, the one that went uphill, that was one of the RVAC engines. They used the sea-level engines, the three in the middle, basically. And so those are the ones that gimbal, that move around and steer the rocket. That is also why they were able to compensate for this time around for that RVAC count, because the other 3 engines that can move, they sort of wiggle their way out to compensate that thrust imbalance, and so they are able to compensate for that. And so those it is true that the relining test in space was supposed to be with one of those sea-level engines, and so to minimize any sort of potential things going on, they basically disabled the ship from trying that relight test. But hey, they still got that landing burn attempt that might happen later into the flight once they go through the re-entry. And so that is basically what we're trying to see happen here.
Alex, can you just remind us what happened with the booster at the earlier part in the mission?
Yeah, the booster ignited all 33 engines. It lifted off. It went uphill with the ship on top, of course. It lost one of the 20 outer engines, those that do not gimbal, the ones that do not move around. It's something that it can compensate for. We've seen even up to 2 or 3 engines going out before and still be good. It had a bit of a rough sort of flight, I guess, during that flip and boost back burn startup after hot staging. The ship ignited its engines, it separated from the booster. The booster did a really quick flip around and tried to sort of come back and start its boost back burn. Reminder that the boost back burn this time around was supposed to be with all 33 engines. It ignited a number of them, but not all 33. It started losing engines as it flipped and started the burn. And so it then had to shut down and abort its pushback burn because the engines were sort of going out, and there was a fail safe basically there in its software saying nope, let's not continue this burn. It then did a sort of controlled reentry. They got that test as well at the very least. That reentry quite more spicy because they were quite a bit more faster than they probably expected. And so that was one of the other things as well that they at least got out of the booster at the very least. So it's like, at least they got all the grid fin data and everything.
Absolutely. Coming up to that re-entry point, I wanted to check in with Ryan. What's your heart rate like at the moment, Ryan? So high that we can't hear from him right now, it sounds like. We're all very, very excited to see these beautiful images. I have to say, when you see the plasma off the side of it like that, it is stunning. I mean, this one looks like it's a little bit frozen at the moment.
No, it's still going. You can see particles moving by. I still love, again, that until Starship, this was never a thing to be able to view the entry on the heat shield and the plasma and everything live. You would get some in return from inside crew capsules. There was the silts pod on top of Columbia, but that never really saw the light of day that much. And even so, the quality was nowhere near like HD that we have today. So a shout out to SpaceX and Starlink and coming up with a way to be able to see this entry interface like we've never seen it before over the last couple of flights here.
Ryan, you're back with us. Look at those gorgeous 80s style plasma streams we're seeing across the screen. What do you think?
Back for real now this time. Yeah, that's great to see. Of course, great to hear from Astroforge as well. But here we go, 48 minutes into flight. I mean, we're getting through it. Maybe we're going through re-entry a little bit sooner than we expected, but that's the reason why they have that huge hazard area in the Indian Ocean, because they can hit things if they, or they're not going to hit things even if they have a slightly off-nominal trajectory. So that's great to see.
All of those colors are so cool. It's just bonkers. But you can see already the speed coming down as it hits the atmosphere and it slows down.
Yeah, this is amazing.
We're watching those numbers on the bottom left as well, as you can see as it's slowing down.
Yeah, you can see the orientation as well. Again, I know I keep bringing up shuttle, but very similar with that nose up. Shuttle did about a 40-degree nose up as it was entering the Earth. So basically it would belly flop in, and Starship doing something very similar there with its thermal system. And again, the one thing that we saw consistently with V1 and V2 was it seemed like things would start to burn through those flaps, but those appear to be holding up pretty well right now with this redesign.
Absolutely gorgeous. Honestly, this is one of my favorite parts when you see the plasma coming in. We obviously didn't get to see that during the shuttle era. We weren't able to capture these live images as we are now. A couple of people have asked, where on the ship are the cameras positioned? Alex, do you know exactly where they are?
This one in particular is on the flap, so as the flap moves, the camera view will also move. There are all fixed cameras on the whole of the vehicle itself. Other ones as well that are located sort of in the raceway area. For example, this one is fixed. It's looking at that aft flap. This is the right-hand side aft flap on the ship, and it's sort of in the engine area. There's like two different cameras, one looking to the right-hand side, the one looking at the left-hand side. They did explain that these tiles that you can see here on the leeward side of the flap, they are not there for thermal management or anything like that. They're just trying to get data on new ways of attaching these tiles to the vehicle, which is basically what we already had in mind and already sort of expected based on how different these tiles look to be attached to the flap compared to what we see on some other locations of the ship. And so the important thing is that it is for ascent. The key thing that they wanted to look for is that aerodynamic pressure and drag and everything going on your tiles and doing all sorts of things, it can basically make your tiles go away. And so that's exactly what they were trying to test with these tiles on the leeward side of the ship.
Ryan, we were expecting about a 1 hour and 5 minute flight today. Things are looking a little bit off, but it's not a bad sign overall. It's looking like it's very positive so far, right?
I just noticed the altitude actually went up and it's going up now. It's using its lift to raise itself a little. Look at that. It was a skip. Yeah, like a little bit of a skip. Yeah. We saw on previous versions that it held altitude. Now it's actually increasing that altitude, which is really interesting. That's good. This means that it's going on track.
That wrapped the vacuum, so they had to burn for a little bit longer. So of course the trajectory will be, even if it's tiny differences, it is going to be different, but it might just be a slight difference because they had to burn longer, because they had less rust, etc. But I mean, these are the sorts of views we would expect on a nominal flight 52 minutes after launch. Right? We're starting to plunge back into the atmosphere here, or even rise out of it a little bit. Oh, we're descending again now through 69.3 kilometers.
Yeah, it did a little bit of a dip out into a bit of a higher altitude. That is cool, man.
Great way to burn off some extra speed, yeah. And again, like Artemis did a much more extreme version of that, but it's a nice little way to kind of ease up on the heat shield a bit and leave off some extra speed, so that way you hit the atmosphere not as fast, but still pretty fast.
It's controlled, isn't it, Sawyer?
Very much so. This is what we want to see, is it maintaining that orientation. Of course, they do have the RCS thrusters that they can use to kind of help with that. The flaps can move, but at this point, it basically should just be going straight down, belly flopping in.
You can notice a little bit of a tilt on the ship, right? On the indicator on the bottom right. It's sort of like tilting a little bit there.
It's like an S-turn?
Yeah, like the shuttle. Again, Sawyer, really good that you're here, because shuttle guy.
Yeah, the shuttle would do upon entry is, as it got into usually thicker parts of the atmosphere, it would start turning left and right to bleed off that extra speed. And it seems like Starship is about to do the same thing.
Loving all the colours in the chat so far. Everyone's saying, why is it yellow? Why is it blue? Why is it pink? You know, obviously we're seeing the plasma burn off as it's re-entering into the atmosphere. Alex, can you explain why we're seeing so many different colours from all this?
Yeah. One of the things that I'm happy is that we're not seeing a lot of sparks as we used to. So that's a good test of the heat shield. Of course, there's still many more minutes to go. There's still 10 more minutes until the ship is going for the landing burn. So, but wow, I think you can sort of see its weight right there on the right-hand side. You know what I mean? That's so cool. But yeah, right now they're going through the period of peak heating. Ironically, the period of peak heating is not the thing that you should be worried about. It's actually a little bit later, when the heating has already soaked into tiles and the temperatures are rising up. That is when it's actually should be something that should concern you. But you can see there. I think even on the catch pin there, on the left, on the top left, you know what I mean? It's turning a little bit of an orange hue.
Se fanno I disegni di...
That's so cool.
No, that's very hot.
Just to be precise.
Sì, mi sa che quindi...
Ryan, you were going over the trajectory earlier. Where is it we're expecting this to splash down?
Indeed. So we have this southeasterly trajectory. If you're just joining us for the coast and re-entry of Starship, and you are thinking this is a completely different trajectory, don't panic. It's a couple of degrees different. So we're going to be splashing down in a similar location off the coast of Western Australia in the Indian Ocean. Also, fingers crossed, should everything go to plan. So, of course, it hasn't gone 100% to plan so far, but if it continues to go to plan, like we're seeing right now, you should be seeing Starship doing those banking maneuvers that we saw on flight 11 the previous version. I'm seeing some more glowing now from the re-entry, which is getting a bit spicy. But fingers crossed, when we get through this re-entry and we get through to the kind of final parts of that procedure, as it gets lower and lower in the atmosphere, it will have a bit more control authority with its captain. Banking maneuver, as if it were coming back to Starbase for a catch. Of course, it isn't. It's going to the Indian Ocean. Well, fingers crossed, a successful splashdown.
Look at the catch pin there on the left. That's so cool. By the way, just to add to one of my notes earlier, I said, oh, look, that's the wake. It is technically the wake of its own engine chill vapors. So they're doing engine chill for landing burn later on. It takes a while for them to chill down the Raptor engines. And so they're doing it now, and that's what you see there on the right-hand side. So it's sort of its own plume behind the ship.
We mentioned those sparks before, how we didn't want to see them. I've seen what does that mean?
It doesn't necessarily mean much. Again, these heat shields.
Perché scegliere l'assicurazione Genertel? Semplice, perché conviene. Acquista ora Innova Online Monopolizza Auto Mobile per te 25 euro di sconto.
Ora entra
That's
pesantemente.
what we typically saw with the burn through of those flaps down there. So seeing sparks like this is not a concern at this point.
Guarda come cala la velocità adesso.
Oh, we're seeing it tilt again. Did you see that maneuver on screen? Just
Yeah,
slightly, or
it's
maybe it was the
it's
camera.
turning the other way now. You can see the G forces on the bottom right, by the way. It's now 0.9 Gs. They are right now about to leave the peak heating region. But as I said, one thing it's the heating, aka the power, and the other thing is the energy, the temperature. And so you heat up things, but it can soak in that heating as it continues that reentry. As you can see, it's let off already about 10,000 kilometers per hour of speed. Being at about 56.6 kilometers in altitude. There's still a lot of speed to bleed off. The G forces will increase. On previous flights, they usually topped off about 2 Gs or so, 2 point something Gs. But yeah, still going through that reentry.
We're going to keep watching this re-entry. It comes up on time. We're expecting it to possibly splash down in about the next 6.5 minutes. I just wanted to say, if you're watching that gorgeous look, I would really like a print of it. Go ahead to shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I believe we've got at least 2 of Max's images already up there on the shop available for you to purchase, and we'll bring those to you on the screen when we can. But right now, we're a little bit obsessed with these beautiful colors that we're seeing.
We're starting to go into daylight. Now you can see some clouds down there on Earth.
You can just see the smoke at the top of the picture, just peeking above the flag. Of course, this is a fisheye lens, but it does distort it a little bit. But you can see the curvature there.
And it's worth noting the flaps look really good at this point. Everything's still holding, no crazy sparks from any joints or anything. This is what we wanted to see here.
And external temperatures are coming down. Peak heating region is now behind us. Ship still holding steady. It's getting a bit more sparky, right? As I said before, it's when now you should be expecting the sparky points rather than earlier on.
Sparky, spicy. We're using all the names for today. Overall, this is looking very positive.
Definitely much better than the first Mission 1 ship re-entry. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Poor ship 29, 10 ships ago.
Yeah, that poor ship. And also, remember, this is the first flight of a completely redesigned vehicle. This carried over from the previous flight is the name, the number of engines on each stage, and the stainless steel. Everything else is brand new. So to see them get this far, over an hour into flight so far, with a brand new vehicle is really impressive. I think the test tanks have definitely paid off.
Yeah, it feels a bit like an illusion, isn't it? Because you look at the ship and you think it looks the same as it always has, but I think version.
Here we go. So we have the peak dynamic pressure, and I think they're about to attempt what they call the flap slap.
No, sì, ma Starlink secondo me per prendere sono di qua
There's a taste. Look at those flaps.
Starlink sono 200. Allora Starlink è come ponte.
The flap slap, it's SpaceX.
Anche secondo me
la copertura è
should be now.
Now
it's like Falcon 9 booster sort of speed, as you can see there.
Again,
this thing is basically a skydiver right now. I mean, just think about that. This is 50 meters tall, 9 meters wide. It's belly flopping back to Earth. That's just bonkers to think about in of itself.
A little bit more elegantly, I think, than belly flop. Maybe not. I mean, it's enormous. I mean, you can't really be elegant when you've got a vehicle of this size. We keep saying it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it can belly flop as long as it does the flip and burns and right itself afterwards.
Viene giù verticale.
Right. We should be close now to when it'll try to flop into the near turn, sort of imitating as if it was coming for a catch. And that is going to be...
Però fanno l'ammaraggio.
Yeah, there we go. It's about to start that maneuver.
ELS banking maneuver.
There we go. That's the call out.
British accent for it.
And that
Look
right
at the,
there. So
at
we're
the
starting
attitude
up.
indicator.
That was the voice of Lars Blackmore, the chief of learning at SpaceX.
So not only
Basically
Alice
part of
and
the
Ryan accents will be exposed here. This is also British. No longer British. It's American now.
Yeah. By the way, this is called the RTLS banking. That was the part at the beginning. They return to launch site. So when it does go for that catch, that's what they call it, is the return to launch site.
Amazing
Look
shots.
at
These
that
are
angle.
beautiful.
Basta, è difficile.
La vuoi una cosa easy? C'è il lavoro easy. Ora rosoliamo in padella.
Carne di pollo italiana.
E tutto questo
Il ritmo sembra di aver letto molto meglio.
Cioè, le giunture di solito
On the horizon?
le cerniere.
Invece stavolta
I see like what can be like mountains or something, mountain tops.
I've got to laugh. We've just seen all of us.
It should be to the north.
Plasma non la
Oh my goodness.
I'm not 100% sure on that one, but we are definitely over the Indian Ocean right now as Starship re-enters, coming from the direction of Africa towards Australia, and we are expecting splashdown off the coast of Western Australia in a few minutes' time. Of course, remember, the timings could be slightly off because of that prolonged ascent burn with the failure of one of the Raptor vacuums, but it should be in a few minutes.
Oh, look at the speed.
Subsonic.
900 km/h.
And is on target.
Lasci capire come si dà.
Look at the attitude of the
va giù
kid
di
because it's now
pancia.
facing south.
Sì, va giù di pancia.
Speed is coming right down, as you can see.
Cioè, praticamente in modo orizzontale si è quasi fermato. È giù verticale. Vedi le nuvole che sono ferme.
And just basically
Ancora
facing
stanno giù
south.
di
That is also the same direction that the pad
14
tower is
km.
facing.
Sì, ma il fatto è che si alza gli ultimi 1100 metri. È una cosa assurda. Poi c'hanno la bomba
Hopefully should happen in a few flights from now.
dal basso.
Sarà cercato un punto giusto.
Wow.
Se non ha un canale. Guarda come
Approaching sunrise, pretty much halfway around the world, if not more.
Yeah.
9 chilometri, arriviamo già
Forget
su
just how far it can go. 1 hour and 5
Some really amazing views.
Che
As the ship is coming back home. Thanks, Starlink.
Lo facciamo vedere.
Okay, ties.
Cioè, le ali sono perfette.
Always
Guarda, non ha subito nessun danno.
For final approach to landing site.
Look at that
There it
turn.
is.
There we go.
Slightly different timings,
Forse
but
so-
that is to be expected.
No, non vado
His own
guardare.
decisions from the point of launch. 3.5 kilometers in altitude. Let's see what happens.
What a steep turn.
Sì, guarda che a 400 km orari
Is going in for that
a 2
wave
km, ma si addrizza gli ultimi 300 metri.
bottom right hand corner.
Guarda, è a 1700, guarda come casca giù, è ancora pari. No, no, funziona solo i 3 centrali. Il TUM solo 2.
Oh my goodness.
E dai, la telecamera.
It did it in 15.
100 metri, una dritta. Una dritta, ancora dritta.
They got it!
Here
In
we
the
go.
ocean! Over it goes! Boom! Oh, yes! Oh, yes! They've done it! What a beautiful explosion to end a hugely successful mission. Ship 39 back on air!
Right on target.
È sempre
Right in the middle of boot camp by the drones. What they had for those shots.
Sono 2 motori accesi. I 2 piccoli.
I mean, they lost one of the engines on ascent and they had an on-target splashdown. Full credit to GNC and SpaceX. I mean,
Sì,
how they pulled that off, I do not know.
Not Yeah, he did an SN.
Poi ho detto perché quando fa così di
Two
solito
of the engines for Lindenberg.
una volta l'ha fatto vedere in diretta che esplota.
Wow.
So cool.
By the way, there's the Gateway sign that previously was Gateway to Mars in that middle top box.
Sarà che fa dietro
È vero.
ce n'è dei bei
We mentioned these earlier. Breaking news. I did say we've got some incredible images. I believe this is one of Max's. If you want to get
questo qua è il modulo
print, head to
lunare.
shop.nasaspaceflight.com and go and get your copy right now. Look how gorgeous that image is.
Hanno fatto volare.
Amaze.
Great detail, Max. I know he's using a 1200mm lens for all those camera lovers out there. Boy, did that pay off.
I was like, you're the nerd.
Yeah, and this is the other one from Max too. I mean, the plume on. Look at the trail on that plume of those Raptor V3s. How long that is. Oh, and the mock diamonds that go with it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The launch rockets are amazing.
A couple of replays we can share.
How many times are we going to play that bloody stinger? Every time they play that stinger, I regret making it. It's my fault. That's the problem. I created it. The root of the problem is me. What have I created? What has it become?
I saw someone in chat that says you need to make a Gatway shirt. The pad and everything, and it's just Gatway. We have those replays coming up. And a reminder, we had a camera that was pretty darn close to that wall.
La pulizia diventa più difficile, ma una nuova testina vuole efficace al 100%. Oral B. La pulizia perfetta.
For the may not have been responding to
Did they get drenched by the water deluge? Did they get shattered by the exhaust? There's only one way to find out, and that's the stay tuned.
Dici la configurazione, tu hai sbagliato la visualizzazione.
We're waiting to find out as well. I have to think that we know what's coming, but we don't. I feel like the team behind the scenes are keeping us on our edge.
I'm just looking at the camera operator's chat, and there is a camera that seems to be sure more level that is very much not level itself anymore. Here we go. Here's some
here we go.
replays.
No, adesso quando si prova per il quadrato fa un po' il lancio per fare vedere.
Capire cosa vuoi dire, perché se zoom troppo è ovvio che poi
And of course, with this new pad design, they can actually hold down the booster when it comes up to 100% thrust.
Allora, prima lo sparava su 6 adesso
the shockwave in it though. From Rocket Ranch.
Prima invece era in 6 direzioni. Tra un po' le onde guarda l'onda
as well, tilting away from the pad.
Questo è spettacolare. Mentre esce il coso che si riprende da solo. Questi qua li hanno aggiunti perché nel prossimo tentativo ne dovrebbero attaccarli insieme e sono i punti di ancoraggio per poi fare il trasferimento più rapido.
Poi lo guarda a casa, tanto penso che se faccio il conto faccio la differenza, guardo questo qui quanto è in grado.
Oh, I need to get a patch to commemorate this amazing
Guardate anche te,
15% available. Shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Go and get your patch now. Watch across 2 screens. I promise you can replay this as well.
I still need to order my patch. I should probably do that.
Of course, you can get a t-shirt as well. We're all sporting t-shirts as well.
This is a pretty close view.
Oh, is that the danger
No,
zone?
I don't think it is, but still very cool view.
Chat is very invested in finding out what's to happen with that danger trailer.
As are we, chat. As are we. We don't have this in advance. We don't know. We're watching for the first time with you.
Just look at the shock waves ripping the air. Look at that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is one of them. This is one of the ones from Danger Trailer.
Yeah, that's the signal for you.
Pizzerina soltanto,
It's just firing off next
Diciamo
to
che
you.
con la telecamera lì non era forse
SD card survived. And that must be where we lost the signal.
Quindi il pistellone è andato.
We don't know yet.
Let's
Go and find out.
Well, we kind of have to wait for the road to open, but yeah.
Chiudi la live, non so come ieri sera.
That one feels really close.